This conference will now be recorded.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, tonight is Tuesday, July 28th. This is a planning and zoning meeting. It's all on GoToMeeting. There's nobody in town hall tonight. Jeremy Ginsburg is not here tonight. In his place, we have David Keating, who is the zoning enforcement officer. I think your official title, is that right? I think that's right. You're muted. There you go.
Okay, now I'm back on. This is Dave Keating. I am the Assistant Director of Planning. I'm also the Zoning Enforcement Officer, yes.
Got it. Okay. And we also have Fred Knight, who is a senior planner, I think. Okay, tonight is a public hearing and a general meeting on the agenda. We have a very full agenda, I would tell everybody. We have some stuff that's optional at the end. So if we can try to keep this moving along, that would be greatly appreciated. I think we do have it down pat on our batting order and whatnot. So I think if we go with the standard protocol, we'll be in good shape. I just got a note from Larry Warble. He will be joining us shortly. Okay, so here we go. First item on the agenda is subdivision application number 627, landfilling excavation and regrading application number 482, Hans J. Mendy, trustee of the 2005 irrevocable Kinmar Trust at 90 Pear Tree Point Road. Proposal to subdivide the 5.1 acre plus or minus site subject property into 4 separate building lots. 2 lots will be created with frontage on Pear Tree Point Road, respectively 1.14 and 1.24 acres in size, and 2 lots will be created on the frontage of Long Neck Point Road, respectively 1 acre and 1.17 acres in size. A deeded open space parcel is to be created on the north side of the subdivision, separating lots 1 and 2. 2 additional deeded open space parcels, along with a dock parcel, are to be created on the west side of Pear Tree Point Road across from the building lots. The proposal to construct 4 new code-compliant single-family residences, 1 on each lot, with associated regrading and stormwater management, and to perform related site development activities. The subject property is situated on the east and west sides of Pear Tree Point Road, approximately 700 feet along the intersection of Crane Road, and is shown on Assessor's Map number 60, that's lots 13 and 49 in the R1 zone. I also apologize for wearing a hat tonight. My mother would turn over in a grave, but it's better with the hat on versus the hat off. This is the former Pear Tree Point School, which closed, I'm going to say 2 or 3 years ago. It was purchased by another local gentleman, past developer in town. And I think our application is being represented by Mr. Weiler Gleason. Fred, you want to just Fred or Dave want to just get a little bit of an oversight of what we're doing tonight on this one?
Yeah, just real quick, Steve, this is, as you had mentioned in reading the description, it's really a 2-part application. The first being the 4-lot subdivision and creation of 4 separate dock parcels directly adjacent to Pear Tree Point Road and the river, as well as the creation of several open space parcels which are required as part of the subdivision application. In addition to the subdivision application, as you noted, Mr. Chairman, is conceptual approval for landfilling, regrading, and coastal site plan review for siting of 4 single-family homes, 1 on each of the 4 proposed building lots. And as you noted, Mr. Gleason, as well as Mr. DeVesta, are here this evening to review this application for us.
Okay, Wilder, take it away, sir.
So
Fred,
Doug,
can I have screen? Have the screen, Fred?
Yep.
You might want to note for the record that Mr. Warble is with us.
Larry's here. Yes, great. Thank you. Larry entered the room at approximately 8:07.
Okay.
Okay, Doug, you should have control of the screen.
Okay. Let's see. What do I do now, Fred? Do I just have to? I have dual monitors.
I'm sorry, do you see a pop-up on your screen that allows you to share your screen?
No, I don't.
Hold on.
Okay, here, I got it now. Yep.
Okay, very good.
Okay.
okay, so I represent the Kermar Irrevocable Trust, and this is our presentation. They actually own the property, this trust.
Wilder, if you could just announce yourself, please.
Sorry, Wilder Gleason from Gleason and Associates, representing the applicant along with Douglas DeVesta, our engineer. So Doug, could we go to the next slide?
There we go.
There we go. Okay, so this is the existing property survey. We have a 4+ just under 5 acre parcel that fronts on Long Neck Point Road and Pear Tree Point Road. And it has a finger of property that extends north between the Potter property on the left to the west and the Novak property to the east. And it currently is occupied by a defunct school with 3 buildings in the center at the high point at elevation about 58. And it goes down in the southwest corner to elevation 18. So you've got about a 40-foot rise from down in this corner up to where the high point is, where the school buildings are. And the school buildings are several feet higher than Long Neck Point Road. So the buildings are at the crest of what would be the spine of Long Neck Point. And there is currently a one-way driveway that goes from Long Neck Point Road through the property down to Pear Tree Point Road with various parking lots, et cetera, and access to the school gym, the administration building, and the school building itself. There is a playground area in the front. And then there's a playground area down by Pear Tree Point. It's relatively flat in that area, but it slopes quite, it's not a very gentle slope going down to Pear Tree Point Road. It was previously permitted back in the 50s as a primary school with up to 140 students. And there was a fair amount of impervious surface as shown here. And in addition, there's a waterfront parcel that has about 500 feet of waterfront along the Darien River. And the square or the rectangle that's jutting out into the Darien River is actually a stone wharf that was previously used for a dock, we believe. And we have proposed to the DEP that we install a community dock there, but they have said we could only get a single 100 square foot float. And as a result of that, we modified our plan for this waterfront parcel to provide 4 dock parcels, each of which permit one of our 4 lots to have a dock into the Darien River. If we can get the DEP to give us a bigger float that is more appropriate for a community dock, we would go back to a single dock with a larger float. But the plans that we submitted last week called for an adjustment to allow us to create 4 dock parcels out of the waterfront parcel. We're going to turn to some pictures. We'll rip through them pretty quickly. For those of you who haven't been to the property, this is the view of the school buildings from Long Neck Point Road. There's a playing field you can see with the soccer goal to the left. You're looking at on the school building, and then the gymnasium is the white one. Let's go to the next picture, Doug. This is looking from the driveway in front. It leads from the school building, and then the white building here is the administration building. And then the next picture will take us circularly down the hill. So let's do the next slide, please, Doug. So you can see we're going down. There's a playground here that we had called out earlier. There's some fairly dense foliage along the property line. We don't have any intents to do anything major there. Let's keep going down to the next slide. There's the playground looking down towards Pear Tree Point. And you can see there's a nice flat area there. Then it gets a little steeper. Let's go to the next slide. And here's the exit driveway with the row of trees beside it. And you can see the white cottage that's down right near Pear Tree Point Road. You'll see that in the next pictures coming up. This is a picture from Pear Tree Point Road looking up the hill. And the brown house through the trees here on the left is Julie Potter's house. And our driveway goes up the hill here. And you can see that row of trees that you saw on the earlier slide is besides the exit drive. Next slide, please. This is looking up from Pear Tree to the administration building and the school building. And then you can see the cottage that's right near Pear Tree Point Road. Next slide, please. This is looking down Pear Tree Point Road. You can see this cottage. It looks like an old caretaker's or farmer's cottage. It's right there. And then the last slide, Doug, is this is the Stone Wharf, where we hope to have a single dock serving a 4-lot subdivision, and we intend to use this as one of our dock sites. So let's go to the next. This is the subdivision plan that we submitted, and you can see that the main parcel between Long Neck Point and Pear Tree Point Road divides into 4 slightly larger than 1 acre lots, each of which will be served by water and sewer off of either Long Neck Point Road or Pear Tree Point Road. And we have increased the open space here, and you can see that that open space now separates lots 1, which is upper left, and lot 2, which is upper right. And it also separates between lots 3 and 4. 3 is on Long Neck Point Road on the south side, and number 4 is on the Pear Tree Point south side. So the open space parcel goes between all 4 lots, separating the east and west lots, those fronting on Long Neck Point. And it also includes the finger that goes up between Julie Potter and the Novak property. So all that's the open space. And we
Can I interrupt for a second, Wilder?
Yes.
That plan showing the bottom half of that lot, is it a different date? That's not what I have. Mine's June 5th. What's yours dated?
This is the revised plan we submitted last Thursday. And we did that, and you'll see the change really, we had to increase the amount of open space that came out of the main parcel, because along the waterfront, we have now 4 60-foot wide dock parcels. On the north side, it's dock parcel number 1, right up there, and that's 60 feet wide. And then we have an open space parcel that runs down to just where it says Pear Tree. That's the start of, that's the open space parcel. Then there's dock parcel number 2, and then dock parcel number 3, which includes that stone wharf, and then dock parcel number 4. And we're left then with a smaller amount of open space south of dock parcel 4, because we now have, instead of a single dock parcel serving a community dock, we are doing this to try and convince the DEEP that we have the right to put out 4 docks, and each of them would have a 100-foot float. and that's by state statute and regulations. And we're meeting with the DEP sometime in August to try and convince them to go back to the original plan, which would have a single dock parcel and a community float that's larger than 100 square feet. We'd want
Fred,
probably.
let me interrupt for 1 second. Fred, do we have this plan as commissioners or not yet?
Yes, you do. It was, both plans were included in your packets that were distributed last Thursday or Friday. The larger set in your packets are the older plans that the subdivision plan is superseded by the additional plans that were provided by the applicant. They may be a smaller set, an 11 by 17 fold out that shows the new revised subdivision plan. But yes, you should have those in your packets.
It's a package that has a cover letter from me explaining what I just said. And then there are.
I got it. Yeah, yep. I'm sorry. Yep. Got it.
That
Thank
cover letter basically summarizes what I just said, that we were working with the DEP and they were being, shall we say, a little doctrinaire. And so I talked to Jeremy and he said it would be okay for us to make the switch. We really do hope to induce them to allow us a larger float for a community dock, which is better for everybody. But
Right. So at the end of the day, you want to have one community dock on Pear Tree Point River, on the river. But what about the space in the middle? Is that going to change at all or no?
if we do a single dock parcel that is based on the stone wharf, we would probably reduce the open space that's shown on the main lot between Long Neck and Pear Tree Point Roads to what we had before. And that was basically the finger going north and some open space between lots 1 and 2, and lots 3 and 4 on the south side actually abutted each other under
Okay,
that
got it.
plan.
Got it. Okay.
Can I inquire on that subject, Steve?
Of course you can, George. Go right ahead, sir.
Just quickly. So Wilder, are you saying that by creating greater open space in the middle of these 4 lots, you get a right to have 4 docks on the river that wouldn't otherwise be the case?
Yes, every parcel, every person who owns waterfront property has, by state law, the right to wharf out and get access to the river. We dealt with that in the Stevens case. That right typically is supposed to be limited to compliance with side yard setbacks. And you can't have a dock encroaching on side yard setbacks. So since the side yard setback is 25 feet in the residential 1 acre zone, we have provided for 60-foot wide dock parcels. That means you have 10 feet where you can put your dock pier that is legal and not requiring a variance, and it gives you some flexibility, and then you can wharf out. And that is what we're seeking to do.
Mr. Riley,
saying-
this is,
Yep.
I'm sorry, this is Fred Donite. Let me just clarify that statement in saying that this subdivision requires that 10% of the total subdivision be set aside as open space. And with the creation of the 4 dock parcels along Pear Tree Point Road, the applicant had to reduce the total area of open space parcels with frontage on Pear Tree Point Road. And that's why they had to go ahead and increase the open space area in the central portion of the property.
Thank you. That's helpful. And then, so 2 and 3 are waterfront properties, Wilder? How does that work?
Oh, no, 2 and 3 are not waterfront, but what would happen is each of the 4 dock parcels would be assigned to one of the corresponding lots that we're creating. For instance, parcel 1 might go with lot 1, parcel 2, dock parcel 2 would go with lot 2, parcel 3 would go with lot 3, etc. And we haven't figured out who gets what, but that's something the owner would ultimately decide.
You'll have to come back to us for the dock later anyway, I assume.
Yeah, we're not proposing docks now. We haven't gotten approvals from the DEP or Army Corps, and we're in the midst of negotiating that. Ideally, we will come back to you with a single community dock, which we think is the right way to go. And if that happens, what we're asking is for you to approve this layout for now. And we anticipate that with negotiations, we think we can convince the DEP to allow a community dock with an appropriate size float, in which case we would come back to amend it consistent with the initial plans that we submitted.
Okay,
Thank you, Mr.
Just-
Chairman.
go ahead, George. All right, record, lots,
Oh yeah, I'm sorry, Steve, go.
lots 2 and 3, if I own lots 2 and 3, for me to get to either dock parcel 1, 2, or 3, or the community dock parcel, I have to go all the way around the block.
Right, and I had a discussion with Fred about this. Because of the grade change, we are not at this point proposing a pedestrian easement down between parcels 1 and 4, which front on Pear Tree Point Road. You've got to climb 40 feet of vertical height from Pear Tree Point to get up to where the houses on Long Neck Point would be. And the thought is that a golf cart is probably going to serve just fine to putter around Long Neck Point Road down to the dock parcels on Pear Tree Point. And that parking or use of the dock parcel for the golf cart would be considered in any dock application that we file at a later date.
I mean, I think that, I don't know, I think you should, for saleability, I don't know, this is just saying, I don't think that's the best move, but.
You mean,
I can hear-
wearing your broker's hat, you think we should have a pedestrian easement?
Yeah, it's awesome. Like, I would love to, if I'm on Long Neck and I can just travel down there and hop on the dock, my kids don't have to go on a road. Like, I would pay a premium for that all day long. I would sell that all day long. If I have to take a golf cart around, there's no way my 7-year-old walking down Long Neck Point, taking the left there, not happening.
Jennifer,
Also, where you have to have parking for this, theoretical golf cart.
And where are you gonna park? I practically killed myself going to look at because that barrier is up right now. I got beeped at like 3 times just because I wanted to see the grade change.
Yeah, wait.
it's going to be difficult to get. We'll probably be looking to do it's not going to be easy. We understand there are complications in that. And I appreciate your comment, Jennifer. We'll take it to heart and bring it back to the owner before we finalize anything here. There may in fact be a pedestrian easement.
Yeah, Wilder, they kind of said what I was thinking already, but it really seems suboptimal the way you've got it, the way you're thinking. And then especially when we have to figure out parking, and so everyone owns like a little bit of the land over here, and then they own some land over there. It's confusing to look at, and
Okay, well, those are all constructive comments. Our hope is that we get an approval, we can negotiate with the DEP, reduce the number of open space, the dock parcels, build one by the wharf, and that lends itself to a pedestrian easement between lots 2 and 3, and perhaps sort of a little golf cart parking area down on the Long Neck Point side of Pear Tree Point Road. Is that the sort of concept you guys would think makes sense?
I would say yes to that.
Yeah, me too.
Okay.
yeah, because I'll tell you right now, I'm worried about parking along Pear Tree Point Road.
Yeah, that's a disaster.
You're schlepping stuff to get onto a boat or something like that.
It's
It's
not
going to
good.
make the docks challenging, I think, without some kind of access that people can just kind of go straight down.
And again, just for the owner, I mean, there's just such a different sale like the sales factor there is just changes astronomically.
Excellent. So that's conceptually what we're talking about. And I think, Doug, let's go to the next slide. Actually, the next slide was the original one design. Okay, this is the charts that we did to accompany it. So we show, you'll see that this is revised to July 22. It demonstrates that each of the lots complies with applicable zoning regulations, and the proposed houses that we have are more than, we're not pressing up against the 20% building coverage, even with generous pools and 3-car garages, et cetera. Doug, do you want to take it from here and talk about your site development plan?
Okay, sure. Good evening, Doug DeVesta, representing the applicant. On the screen, you'll see our conceptual site plan with conceptual house footprints. We figure these houses are fairly, large, 3,000 square foot floor plan. So that gives us an idea of what size houses we can get out there. We provided a driveway for each of the houses, graded out. Because and as well, it talked about the high point is about where my cursor is here. So anything on the west side will drain towards Pear Tree Point Road. Anything on the east side will drain out towards Long Neck Point Road. Because we're down in the lower third of the watershed, or right next to the Darien River, we're asking for a waiver from Section 880 for a full stormwater management plan. We're looking at looking at the water quality volume, taking the first inch of runoff from the impervious areas. That would consist of the the house roof areas, part of the driveways, and the decking around the pool areas for each of the parcels, and providing detention or recharge system consisting of Coltech units that are shown in the yellow at all the various lots there to handle the first inch of runoff. So we handle the 1 inch of runoff for each of the sites there. The parcel has currently is connected to the sewer system force main that is in Pear Tree Point Road that loops around onto Long Neck. We're proposing to tie each of the residents into the sanitary sewer line through a pressure grinder pump in each of the houses. Darren pointed out to us that there are 3 laterals proposed on Pear Tree Point Road and nothing on Long Neck for the 2 houses. So we'll end up utilizing 2 of the 3 laterals, including the 1 existing lateral to servicing the school on Pear Tree Point Road, and we'll have to tap into the sewer line on Long Neck Road. There's water out there, so each house will be served by the municipal water system that's located in either Long Neck or Pear Tree Point Road. Power is coming in through either Long Neck or Pear Tree underground to each of the residents, so that's there. Currently, there's underground service from Long Neck to servicing the school building underground, and there's also above ground utilities, which is cable and telephone along the southern border of the property. I'd like to just to point out that this is what I'm showing in the dark and the yellow and the reddish color is the proposed impervious surfaces. And then if I jump down to here, what I'm showing here is the existing conditions map showing in the existing parking area in gray, and the red are the existing buildings. We're showing, based on our proposed site plan with the conceptual house footprints, which we feel are very liberal in size, we're showing about a 24% reduction in impervious areas from existing conditions. So this condition to proposed condition are about 24% less impervious areas. So we felt that this is it's a positive thing for the area, and then runoff getting out into either Long Neck or Pear Tree Point Road. In terms of coastal area management, which is also we're applying for, is the runoff patterns from pre-development to post-developments are not going to change. Water from the high point area is still going to flow to the east or to the west as it currently does. The vegetation throughout the property, as most people know, it's lawn area with some mature trees throughout the property and along the borders. The only area we've got any kind of tidal area would be along the Darien River itself. It's an intercoastal flats area. As you know, during low tide, it's all flats in that area. There's also a flood hazard area, which is predominantly right along the westerly side of Pear Tree Point Road. The 100-foot CAM review area is right where my cursor is, right along. It encompasses probably the first 50 feet of the frontage along Pear Tree Point Road. The remaining portion of the property is outside that area. So that's really the coastal area management we're dealing with. Again, the developments proposing four single-family residence, driveways, parking, pools, pool sites, and pool terraces. So we feel that with what we're proposing, there's really be no impact, no potential impacts to the resources, which would be the Darien River and the areas adjacent to it. And that's really basically all I've got. If there's any questions from the commission, I'll be glad to answer them.
Okay. Hey, Doug, can you go back to the preliminary chart of subdivision, the zoning table?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there you go. Got it. Now, on the bottom, you have the maximum building coverage sizes. Of the four numbers, you have, three are the same and one's different. Is that should be just a footprint of the house is what I'm thinking, right?
Yeah, if I go back to my plan here, you'll notice that lots 1, 2, and 1, 2, and 4 are basically the same footprint, and then
Right.
lot number I think that's lot number 3 is slightly different because of the width of the property, because being narrowed down, it's kind of an L shape, so it's a little bit larger or smaller. So that's why there's a difference there.
So that's when you said that. I thought you mentioned something like there are 3,000 square foot footprints, but all covered. It's including the pool and everything else. That's where you get to the other.
Oh, no, the house, I meant the house footprint, Steve. So the house footprint on the ground is about 3,000 square foot.
And then to go from 3,000 square feet to 4,350, that's all the ancillary stuff like pools and whatnot.
That's correct.
Okay, got it. Want to go around the horn? Jennifer, any questions at this point?
Sure. So I do have a question. Sorry, my internet doesn't seem to pick up video so well. So if it's bad, just let me know and I can pop off of that. So I get the pivot between storm management and water quality, right? But anyone who's driven down to Pear Tree is well aware that we've got some water issues, right, during storm events. And my primary concern is, like, I guess I don't totally get when we're just looking at the water quality, how we're really mitigating what's going to happen when we have these large homes with maybe pools put in, and how the runoff, like, I don't know. I mean, right, I'm not alone with people who've driven down there during a water event. I'm a little bit, or during a weather event. So I'm a little bit confused on how that street, do you take into account the drainage at Pear Tree and the other side of Pear Tree where we have that little strip of land that's included in, yeah, exactly.
Well, what I've got,
Go ahead, Doug.
the water quality volume is picking up the first inch of runoff, which is typically your first flush, or that's when the most pollutants are in there. But most storms you're going to get, I know most are half inch or less, but there's some of those gully washes that we do get. So yes, some of the water that it might bypass the drainage system that's here, or may bubble out and then sheet flow along the lawn areas and then out towards Pear Tree Point Road. There are catch basins on the driveways at various locations that will pick up the runoff from the driveways. The roofs are all being tied into the drainage system, and there is a drainage system out in Pear Tree There's one right in front of the cottage. I think there's one, there's a couple of on the west side of Pear Tree Point Road, and then that goes out towards the river itself. And then with the reduction in right now, as we talked about, as I showed here, you've got all this impervious area starting about where the school building is here, all flowing down towards Pear Tree Point Road without one single catch basin on this road at all. So you're going to get all this water sheet flowing down this driveway with a curbing on it right out into Pear Tree Point Road without being captured at all. With our proposal, at least we've got catch basins on this lot here is lot number 3, I believe, has two catch basins here and 2 more down here. That's going to pick up the runoff from the parking area and the driveway itself going out towards Pear Tree Point Road, and same thing here. So really only from this point, from the west side of the catch basins on both of these lots here will be going out into Pear Tree Point Road. The rest of it will be captured into our drainage system. So again, feeling that having no catch basins at all on any of this impervious areas and the roof areas all draining out into Pear Tree Point Road is certainly going to be reduced because of our development.
Yeah, okay, sort of, but so I get it, Doug, I totally get it, and I appreciate that, except for the fact that what is the coverage of homes, not just the driveway, because right now there's lots of grass, right, there's a field, and everyone is clear about the pitch, right, there's a 40 feet difference between when we're back on Long Neck, right, am I correct in remembering this? When
Correct.
We're on Pear Tree. So how much coverage of not just driveway, but houses, right? And then we're also going down, I guess, what's the percentage difference between what we're covering now on the front 2 lots? I don't need overall. I want the front 2 lots where we're downstream here.
Well, what we're doing too is you got to think about it is that, we talked about this slight sloping from High Point from east to west, and anything that's being captured, any grading, anything east of this house here will be draining onto the driveway and into our drainage system. That is all taken into consideration as well. So anything that drains, again, it's the impervious area plus whatever area drains onto that impervious area and being collected is being captured and into our drainage system. Same thing with the pool area. There's a channel drain or slit drain here. Anything that drains onto that impervious area goes into that drain and into our drainage system, and that was all taken into consideration in our calculations.
Okay, and that's for up to 1 inch.
Up to 1 inch, correct.
Okay, how many days? Sorry, I'm gonna get a little. How many days of the year now that weather has changed so much? Okay, so this is gonna be very specific, and I'm sorry for asking this, but I want to know. Over the past 5 years, because we've had lots of issues, right, with flooding in town and places we've never seen before, how many days over the last 5 years have we had more than 1 inch of rain? Because from my perspective, it seems to be a lot. So I want to know, what does that look like on those days? And it doesn't need to be answered now, obviously, Doug, but that's something I definitely want to know.
Let me see if I can add to it a little bit. And Jen, I think I'm helping you out a little bit, but Doug, right now, there's no real stormwater management system on the property today. Like, there's no Coltex, there's no underground chambers.
That's correct.
Okay, so in total, we're adding 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I see 8 total Coltex chambers.
Right. We've got 3 on lot number 1. We've got 1 large one on lot number 3. Number 2, we got two out in the front, and then we got 2 more on lot 3 there.
So now so the existing 3 or 4 buildings that are on there today have no Coltex system or stormwater management, so it just goes from the gutters right into either storm sewers or sheet flows onto the grass.
That's correct.
And now every single house and pool drain is going into a Coltex system or being captured before going out the bottom.
That's correct.
Okay, then the second thing was to answer Jennifer's question. Lots 1 and 4, which are the 2 lots that front on Pear Tree Point Road, as designed right now, the lot coverage of each of those is 8.8%, is the existing proposed coverage, the building coverage, whereas you're allowed to go up to 20%. Am I reading this right?
That's correct.
Okay. So you on those 2 lots in front, Jen, where it goes 40 feet down to the road?
No, I get it. I get it. That's fine. I'm if I have catch basins, I get it, that are capturing 1 inch. And at that, after that 1 inch, we're gonna have a problem, just like parking. I'm gonna be real cognizant that we're making good choices, not for this moment, but for long-term effects on a very important street that the public travels to get to a public beach that serves the town, and that's who we serve.
So
So I'm going to ask almost the same question in a different way, and maybe the answer might be a little more enlightening. I get that it's all better than it exists today. But if there's a problem today, I guess, how do we figure out that these improvements are enough to eliminate the problem? And I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, you're going to be asking us to waive the typical type of study, which would be to compare this to as if there was no coverage, the way we did at, say, Ox Ridge and some of the other developments we've seen through. So, you know, with a more significant survey. So,
the fresh meadow.
yeah, is there anything you can do to let us know? I mean, I guess I see that it's better than it is today. I don't know if it's good enough. And I don't know how I get there.
Can I address that in some way? Because
I'd love it if you did. Yeah, that'd be great.
the Darien zoning regs were drafted, I don't know, 10, 12 years ago for drainage. And they were modified after very substantial discussion. And Craig Flaherty, a local engineer, had a big hand in it. And the theory, Larry, as I understand it, this is a layman's version, I'm not an engineer, but typically you do on-site detention
I
for,
need someone to mute because it's crackling, making noise.
typically you,
sorry.
like at Ox Ridge, it was a 0 increase in runoff in a 50-year storm with a fresh meadows approach. I can tell you that's a very rigorous standard. Norwalk has a 25-year storm. There are towns that have a 10-year storm standard. The difference between a 5 and a 50-year storm, a 10-year and 50-year storm, is a huge volume of water. I think it's a 7 inches in 24 hours is a 50-year storm. Now, what happens is you want to retain your water on site in a 50-year storm if you're way upstream in the watershed. However, and the reason you do that is you want the peak of the storm event to have passed your site so that the water flowing the rivers is lower than its peak. And then your drainage system starts to let it out in the upstream portions of the watershed. But in the downstream 1/3 of the watershed, which is essentially the coastal zone, the regulations say we don't want on-site detention. In fact, we want the water to get off the sites into the storm systems in the streets and out into the rivers so that it gets out into Long Island Sound before the upstream portion of the watershed peak occurs. And so this downstream water is not going to interfere and back up the discharge of water from the upper 2/3 of the watershed. And so the regulations say that if you're within the coastal zone or in the lower third of a watershed, you're exempt from the on-site detention, which you imposed and required at Ox Ridge School, which is high up in the watershed. And that's because actually letting the water shed off this site and into the Darien River, which is right next door for the the westerly portion of the site, is exactly the best management practice under stormwater guidelines. And so
That's very helpful, Wilder. Thank you.
if does that give you an overview? Yeah.
You've addressed my question.
Thank you.
Steve,
Good, Jim.
let me come to perhaps a different way of answering Jennifer's question. On the chart we're looking at right now, you got that dot, which is the high point of the, it's the top of the ridge that runs north and south along the point. Now, I don't know how the ridge actually runs, but let's assume that it's perpendicular to the way these slots run. So you can draw a line from the top, passing through that dot to the bottom. Now, for the purpose of Jennifer's question, we don't give a damn what happens to the east of that line. But we do care what happens to the west of that line. So that, is it possible that you go to the existing property, the sketch of the existing property, draw the same line through the same point? I don't know where the point is on this, but draw the same line north and south and compare the percentage of coverage or the amount of impervious surface or whatever between the two drawings.
That's a good idea.
If the coverage is less on with the subdivisions, or the impervious surface, pardon me, is less, then we've improved the situation from what it was when the school was there. And if not, we've made it worse. And it seems to me that in light of what Wilder said about how the town wants the water, where it preferred that it goes, and so on and so forth, if we can demonstrate that we're actually improving the situation, then that's probably an acceptable answer to Jennifer's question, although Jennifer would have to say how she feels about it. You understand the question?
Yep, I do.
As I understand it, you're asking Doug or our surveyor to look at the high point along this property, see what the existing coverage is in that, Doug. I think it's a little further west. I think it's actually bifurcated. Yeah.
Somewhere down here someplace.
Yeah, I think it's a little further west than that.
Well,
But
I'll have to look at it more closely, but.
Look at that and see. I would suggest, Jim, that you have to take into account the Cultex that are going to be retaining the first inch of flush.
Okay, I accept that, yes.
And the other thing is, even if you have a more impervious surface, the idea is still to get the water off the site into the gutters and stormwater system in Pear Tree Point Road, which directs it into the Darien River. And you want that to happen sooner than the peak flow that comes down the Darien River from upstream in those big storm events.
So I think what we're asking Wilder on that is that right now we had the coverage, if you do simple math, on the west side it's 16, it's 8.8 plus 8.8, which is like, 17.6%. On the east side, it's a little bit greater. It's it's 8.5 plus it's 16.5. So on your other site plan, Doug, the existing one, the west side.
Those are excluding the open space, which is part of the parcel. And
Understood. But on the plan, the existing plan, the coverage on the on the west side, it looks like it's, de minimis, and all the coverage is on the east side.
Guys, for purposes of subdivision, this is a conceptual site plan.
Understood.
And the decision on whether you're going to subdivide or not, it seems to me, we're getting into technical details. Someone who's building a house here is going to come in and modify these plans, and at some point is probably going to be seeking approvals. And I don't think we don't have detailed plans. We have conceptual plans. And if you are concerned about this, it would seem appropriate for you to say, the subdivision is okay, but we want to see specific applications with respect to each of the lots once you're going to build. Or we assure that the area of impervious surface that's shown on these, Jim, we'll try and get you the answer. Bottom line, we will get you the answer.
Thanks.
And then see what that does. Okay.
Can I ask a question of Jennifer? Jennifer, what's in terms of you're talking about Pear Tree Point Road? Is it the road getting flooded, or what's going on? So I understand a little better what your concerns are about Pear Tree Point Road.
Well, I don't know if where'd she go?
She's muted right now.
Right. She's also, her camera's also off. Well, this is a question, is when the water comes off of your property, does in the drain system, does it go under the road or over the road, Doug?
Well, like I said, there's catch basins right in front of the cottage. And there's one down by the southern property line, and there's one or two across the street here. So I'm just curious, I just want to know, is it backing up? I'll have to talk to Darren and see if there's any known issues that he's aware of in this area, flooding, because again, the difference between our road and Darien River is fairly high. So I'm wondering if is it backing up? If the drainage system is backing up, is it backing up because water can't get out when it's high tide along the Darien River and not allowing the water to go out? Or is it just during some larger storms that this drainage system can't handle it? That's kind of what my question is too. I want to make sure I understand what the concerns are, but I will check with Darren as well to find out what he knows about this area.
This is Fred Donide speaking. I would just note for the record that Darren Ostafine, the Assistant Director of Department of Public Works, did submit comments for the record on July 22nd. Those are also included as part of your packets. And there is, he has no comments regarding stormwater retention or detention on the site. He does note that the engineer has proposed stormwater quality measures and disposal of sump pump water on site via underground storage. He didn't elaborate on that and presumably didn't have any specific issues with what's being proposed for the site.
I could not comment. I don't know if we know how many times that road at that spot is flooded. I think that's what part of your question is.
We can find out from Darren and report back to you on that. And we can also have Doug or our surveyor do a calculation of the impervious surface on the western half, or from the crest down to Pear Tree Point Road, to see what existing impervious is versus what we're proposing, realizing that what we're proposing is conceptual only, and somebody is going to come back and modify that in some way, bigger or smaller.
That's fair.
Guys allow.
George, do you have any comments at this point? We haven't heard from you, sir.
Yeah, I just wanted to join the concern about the capacity of whatever the system is in Pear Tree Point Road to handle the additional water. I sense that we are increasing the amount of impervious surfaces on the westerly two lots that currently exist, and they're at a pretty good pitch. So although you've got some good, storage space for them, I still wonder whether or not Pear Tree Point Road's pipes can handle that. And I, as Wilder and everybody knows, I'm new to this, and I understand these are only conceptual drawings, but I don't know what else we're supposed to do. I mean, if you come in and tell us that we've got, enough acreage to satisfy the zoning rules, so I can divide it in 4, well, okay, then I guess we're just supposed to say, okay, until we get more details. And I think we've got to look at those concepts at this point and see what we're dealing with and make sure we can avoid trouble in the future.
Which is what we typically, that's very historic, the way we've had it in the past. We usually get conceptual plans, not just a blank piece of paper. Okay. We've heard from all commissioners so far. Would anybody, you good, well, if we go to the general public at this point? Wilder? Did you hear me? I'm not muted, right?
I haven't heard from any neighbors other than a neighbor to the south wanted to see the plans. I sent them to him, and I assume he's seen them. And I think I'd like to sum up if we can now. Doug, do you
Let me
want
just open up. Let me open it up to the general public first to see if anybody in the
We've done that.
would anybody in the public domain like to speak to this application? From the middle, raising his hand.
Yeah, looks like we have Mr. Lyons who's interested in speaking.
Yes, I just have 2 questions. One, I'm a little confused on
Please
how
introduce yourself.
Sorry, it's Bob Lyons. I live at 94 Pear Tree Point Road, and I was the person who had reached out to Wilder seeking the plans. My 2 biggest concerns, and I know these are all conceptual plans, so I'm just throwing them out there, is one, just on drainage, in particular, how it would flow to my property as well as to the street. And I know these are early stages, but I just thought I'd flag it. And then 2, it's a little bit of a head scratcher to me, and I am also new to how the P&Z works, but how you would be able to get 4 docks in there. And I know it's early stages, but I wanted to flag that as well.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks you. Thanks for all you guys do.
No sweat. Anybody else like to speak to this application? And you have nothing in the chat, right, Fred?
I don't see anything, Steve.
I don't see anybody else raising their hand or their microphones unmuted. Okay. Dave, anything? Is Dave saying no? Okay. So Wilder, a couple of questions about the property, a couple of things to be answered. Is it okay if we leave this one open and wrap it up next week or next time?
Yep.
So we would be continuing this application to September 1st, which is the next commission, the next Planning and Zoning Commission meeting is scheduled for September 1st.
Could I just ask, Doug, do you want to address Mr. Lyons' questions about impact on his property? He is right down underneath lot 4, which is the southwest one. He's right there.
Right.
So at least we can address his concern about impact on his property.
That would be nice. Thank you.
Sure. This conceptual plan we've got here is grading around the pool area. Will be a retaining wall because it does slope off there, and that will be draining back towards be a little bit of a cut draining back towards the pool area. And then anything from the front of the house, west of the front of the house, the grades are not being changed. So anything that's what's occurring currently can be continuing to flow in the same direction. I was out there the other day. There's a little bit of a retaining wall right along this property line here, so that's a little bit higher. So any runoff that just hits that wall will follow along the wall and down towards the other wall, down along Pear Tree Point Road, and through the wall and out into Pear Tree Point Road. So overall, the grading based on this conceptual plan is not really changing any of the grades in front of the house, there, west part of the house. Most of the grade changes will be along the back and along the driveway, which will not impact Mr. Lyons' property at all. And drainage, again, whatever, collecting the runoff from the roof areas and from the pool area and going into our detention system. Currently, right now, from the schoolhouse building, there are some pipes that run along the property that drain into like a little bit a swale area between the building and the southern property line that drains in a westerly direction, which may ultimately at some point get over onto his property. But I think with what we're proposing, really, I don't see any additional impact from our proposed subdivision onto his property.
And Doug, would you make that statement? Is that your opinion with regard to impact on any of the neighboring properties?
Yes, it is. It's my opinion on everything's being graded back into the properties and have no impacts on it's our professional opinion there'd be no impacts on the adjacent properties due to our subdivision.
Okay. Hey, Ryan, you want to comment on the dock parcels?
Steve, I didn't understand what you just said.
I'm sorry. Do you want to just comment on the dock parcels? His second question was
The dock parcel, Connecticut law allows any owner of waterfront to wharf out. It is ultimately up to you guys to approve the landward side of that, and you have some jurisdiction over, the extension that goes into the water, provided it meets, if it doesn't meet setbacks. So, and your regulations allow you to, there's certifications that are required. We have to meet those standards if we're going to get your approval. And we realize these 4 dock parcels that we're proposing may not actually, we haven't done the due diligence to make sure that we can actually make them work, but we believe we can. And frankly, we are looking forward to getting the DEP to give us a community dock at that wharf, which would be far better and easier for everybody. But we just can't do that with a 100-foot float. So, and I'm very confident that that wharf provides a great area for a community dock with some possibilities of some storage, possibly there, and certainly a safer parking if you're going to have some golf carts there. But we are aware of that concern, and we will look carefully at a pedestrian easement between the Pear Tree Point lots to serve the Long Neck Point lots. That was a very valuable suggestion from you all. So as I get it, I see we need to look at the impervious surface west of the high point dividing our property and look at that compared to the conceptual site plan. I think if we're less, then I think Jim Rand, you're okay. I think if we're more, we will have to look at that and see what impact the Cultex have, the on-site detention, and we will investigate further to see if there's any history of flooding of Pear Tree Point in front of our property, which I think was suggested as Jennifer Leahy as a possibility or a concern. So Doug and I will come back to you on September 1st and hopefully have some answers to address your questions.
Let me just ask 2 more quick questions, and I don't want to hold it up because we talked about this for an hour. 2 things. One is only 2 of your lots front on Pear Tree Point Road and Pear Tree River, or the Deering River. You said that same as anyone that has waterfront property gets rights to the river. Lots.
Yes. So if we have 4 separate dock parcels, 2 of those parcels would be allocated to the Long Neck Point lots. And 2 of them go to the Pear Tree Point lots.
They're just sold separately. Okay. Then the other piece of that question is, you say community dock. Is that community for the Darien community or community for the 4 people that own these 4 houses?
For this development, it's limited to, it would be a private community limited to these 4 lots.
So it's not like the community dock on the Rowayton River that my kid parks his boat at and goes to 101 and gets a cheeseburger.
Correct.
All right, thank you.
We don't have a cheeseburger stand.
Hey, Steve, in the interest of, I know we're moving quick, but maybe this is a good opportunity to ask Mr. Lyons if there's any existing flooding issues that have been going on in his property, since it's right next door, and I assume he's been living there a while.
It's a good idea.
Yeah, sorry. This is Bob Lyons again at 94 Pear Tree Point. No, there have not. I mean, I have some trees in between the grass area and the stone wall, which I guess would be on the southern end of, I'm not sure if that's lot 1 or 3, but I've not noticed any flooding whatsoever. I think that land is a little higher, but I haven't had any problems with flooding to date.
That's very good to hear. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay.
I think the question also is has there been any flooding, are there any flooding issues on Pear Tree Point Road itself?
Yeah, we just got a data point. That's good. That's helpful.
This is Bob Lyons again. None that I've noticed. I think most of the flooding that occurs is around that bend. And once you go past Pear Tree Point School and past my house, I think there's drainage that there's drainage grates that handle the property that we're talking about, but it's just a question, and I haven't seen it yet exacerbate the flooding that already goes on around that turn in between my property and 98 Pear Tree Point Road, which is pretty bad, and it's a pretty hairy turn. So when it does flood, it's very dangerous for pedestrians. But that's away from what you guys are dealing with here. So
Thank you, Mr. Lyons.
thank you.
All right, so Wilder, we're gonna extend this to September 1st.
That's great. Thank you all.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Comment.
All right, let's move on to the next item. Second on our agenda is special permit application number 258A as an applicant Kennedy's Barber Club, 1077 Boston Post Road, proposal to establish a barber shop, a personal service use establishment in a 1,333 plus or minus square foot area within a portion of the commercial space now being created in the back of 1077 Boston Post Road, the Darien Playhouse building. The subject property is located on the northwest side of Post Road, approximately 550 feet northeast of intersection with Leroy Avenue, and is shown in Assessor's Map number 73 as lots 7 and 42, with shared parking lots 40 and 41 in the CBD and PR zones. Okay, this is, if you guys recall, we approved the redevelopment of the Darien Playhouse. The back of the building is going to have 3 retail stores. This looks like an application for the barbershop, which is Kennedy Barbershop, which is going to be Glen Liquors, is moving to the center store, or wants to move to the center store, which kind of sort of new when we did the application. I think we have Amy Zapatakis, John Vicar here, and I think we have Amy Zapatakis representing the applicant. It looks pretty straightforward, but we will check. We did account for the parking and knowing about the parking issues when we approved the Playhouse in advance. So that is an item here. Fred or Dave, anything I'm missing before we turn it over?
Steve, I think you covered things here. I would just add that Kennedy's Barber Club is currently located at 1089 Boston Post Road, which is another related application the commission has recently heard with respect to another use going in there. They will be moving from that location at 1089 Boston Post Road to as you mentioned, Steve, the backside of 1077, the Darien Playhouse. Amy Zabatakis is here representing the applicant.
Fantastic. George.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
in light of my colleague at Rucci Law Group representing the applicant, I will recuse myself and go hide for a while.
Just for the record, you're sitting right next to her on my Brady Bunch screen.
Oh, he's gone now.
Amy Zabatakis, take it away.
All right, Amy Zabatakis, Rucci Law Group. I'm sorry to tell you all that I do not have any displays, so there will be no screen sharing, but hopefully I won't bore you too much. Steve did, and between Steve and Fred, we got a pretty good summary of what's happening here. A few weeks ago, or was it months, who knows now, I presented to you the application for the redevelopment of the back of the Darien Playhouse. The Darien Playhouse owners, John and Joe Vaccaro, are on the call as well if you have any questions for them. And I believe that Prakash Wadwadi, who's the owner of Kennedy's, is also on the call if you have any questions for him. The nice thing for you all is that this is a known entity. Kennedy's Barbershop exists on the Boston Post Road. This is an opportunity for them to sort of right-size their space. Currently, they have both a first floor and a second floor, and they're not really utilizing the second floor. So they'll be moving the barbershop operation to the middle space in the newly renovated space in the back of the Darien Playhouse. And otherwise, their operations will be very much the same as they are currently. They will have, they're still working on the floor plans. COVID sort of threw a wrench in some of their design plans as well. They're trying to make sure they have enough space between the chairs and for people. But the plan is to have between 5 and 6 barber chairs, 2 wash stations. They'll have a reception area. They'll have a separate area for clients where there'll be, like 2 chairs and some refreshments. And then they'll have a bathroom and a sort of staff area in the back of the space. So again, the layout's not final, which is why I'm not presenting that to you right now, but it will be very similar in terms of what they've got now on just the first floor. And parking wise, they are not actually, aside from weekends, their peak times don't really overlap with what we sort of looked at as some of the peak times for the parking when we looked at the overall development of the site. However, they will of course abide by the approval that was given for the overall development in terms of having employees park off site. Actually, I sort of looked at what their expected numbers are, because again, they're an existing business, so they have numbers compared to what our parking study was looking at for these various retail spaces, and it's actually a little bit lower than the estimates that were being used by the parking experts, especially if you pull out the employees and don't have them utilizing the shared parking lot. So that's about it. Oh, and the other point, of course, is that because it's pretty much 95% is based on appointments, so you don't have a lot of people standing around and waiting. And of course, during this period, you'll be keeping numbers down even lower than you would. Hopefully, we'll get back to those higher capacity numbers. So I think this is good for the neighborhood. It allows this existing local business to stay in town, but right size to a better space. But move right basically around the corner, so there won't be any issues with anyone finding them going forward.
Thank you. Great. Commissioners, any questions? Larry, you got a beard? You can use grooming.
What are the new member rates?
You need an appointment now. What are you opening? That's why I got a hat on too. What are you opening? Good. Jim, you're okay?
Special on COVID beards.
Yes, for sure.
I only have one question. Maybe it's not a question so much as it is a request of staff. Just to go back and cast your eyes over the discussion and the findings when we approved the redesign of the Playhouse property, to make sure that the parking, I don't doubt what Amy said. I'm not questioning you, Amy.
Sure.
I just to make sure that the anticipated parking need for the relocated barber shop doesn't conflict with anything that we agreed with regard to the redevelopment of the Playhouse property generally.
Okay.
I mean, it's probably 5 minutes of skimming through the old resolution, but I think it'd be
Yes,
just
absolutely.
Thank you,
Mr.
guys.
Mr. Rand,
Please.
this is Fred Donite, and 100% we will take a look at the adopted resolution for 1077 and be sure that the new use is in full compliance with the commission's decision on the parking situation, the shared parking situation in back of the building there. The application does note that employees, the lease requires that employees park as far away as possible in the parking lot, but the owners of 1077 Post Road, the Darien Playhouse and Darien Place may be working on additional parking agreements with for example, the Board of Education at 35 Leroy, and other arrangements may be in the works. So all of that will be taken into consideration as we move forward with this.
Thank you.
Thanks, Fred.
And I don't know if it ever made the minutes or I know it did make the resolution. I think when Mr. Vaccaro presented it, he said one of his tenants was going to be, I think they was looking at was a barbershop to move over, and the other one I think was a lighting company. I don't think he ever identified the third one, but that's okay. Jennifer Leahy, anything to add? Question, comment?
No, I ditto Mr. Rand.
Great. Okay. Would anybody from the general public like to speak to this application? I don't see anybody. Dave, did I miss anything? Dave saying no? All right. I would entertain a motion to close the hearing. It's got to come from Larry Warble, right? Jim Rand. Jim Rand, motion to close. Larry, in a second with the beard.
I'll second. Yeah.
John Vaccaro's got a mustache. He needs one too. Well, as a favor, closing the hearing. Got Dave Keating's got a beard. All right. Your applicant doesn't have to speak, Amy. You're good.
All right, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
We'll
Next item.
possibly deliberate on this application later in the evening.
Thank you.
We hope so. What's up next? Next, landfilling excavation and regrading application number 483, Brendan McNamara, 55 Maywood Road, proposal to regrade the center section of the existing backyard and perform related site development activities. The 2.1 acre plus or minus acre subject property is located on the west side of Maywood Road, approximately 850 feet north of its intersection with Delwood Road. Is known on assessor's map number 4 as lot 101 in the R2 zone. This is what we seem to see all the time. People that have backyards that slope, that they want to have their kids play soccer and lacrosse, and they need to flatten out their backyards. We see this probably.
Mr. Chairman, for the
Once a month?
record, I'm back.
Oh, fantastic. We have Mr. Riley back. Fred, you want us to give a quick overview on what's going on here? Make sure we're on the same page.
Yeah, absolutely, Steve. So
you.
this is a landfilling regrading application. As you had mentioned, the rear yard of the property has a pretty decent slope on it from the back side of the house out back of their patio. The lawn slopes up to a high point in the very back of the property. So the proposal is to construct 2 new retaining walls, one
That's what I'm trying to figure out how to.
one on the back side of the existing patio area at the back of the house, and then another 2-foot retaining wall at the very back side of the property. They propose to cut and flatten that area out and then use that cut as fill, using that to flatten the property out, and as you had mentioned, Steve, to essentially create a more usable backyard. So we have Chris Ecklow from Elise Landscaping with us tonight. He's going to go over the application and answer any questions that you may have. So you can go ahead, Chris.
Hi, can you hear me? Hello?
Yes.
Okay, sorry. So my name's Chris Elko. I'm from Elise Landscapes. I'm representing Jackie and Brendan McNamara, 55 Maywood. As Fred mentioned, the main crux of the application is to regrade the center section of the rear yard. The rear yard does slope east to west up into the backyard. So I'm going to scroll down. This is existing conditions. So it's steeper towards the back of the house, and then it just continues until you get to the top of the slope, which is in this area. So the area we're concerned about is this middle section. So there are additional trees to come out, this oak tree and then several smaller trees along the southern border, a maple by the rear terrace as well. Also down to our proposed grading plan. So the extent of the regrading is really about 17,000 square feet, which I know sounds like a lot, but it's a 2-acre parcel. So the 2 retaining walls that Fred had mentioned, the first one is on the eastern part, about 16 feet behind the existing stone wall. This is going to be about 2 feet high and retain the fill that we're going to gain from cutting into the slope here. The upper smaller retaining wall is just around the oak that's to remain, just so we can grade and try to stay away from the root system as much as possible on the oak and create this more level playing area. Proposed swing set would be within the building setback on the northern part. I know one of the neighbors had a concern about the swale and the existing drainage which comes across. Our proposal is to regrade this. We're filling in about 2 feet here, and then have drainage behind the wall, which would just spill out at the end. So we're not increasing any runoff towards the neighbor. It'll actually flow around where my cursor's going. We're not really adding any impervious surface, as the town engineer had noted in his remarks, except for the top of the wall. So we're actually reducing, ideally, the sheet flow by smoothing this out a little bit. It does get a little steeper, but we have planting on either side of this wall as well. I know that was a quick 2 minutes, but if anyone has any questions, I'm happy to answer and go through this with you.
There is a third wall that's south of the main wall, right? That little
Right,
thing.
so this is an existing wall that's here now. So we're not touching that wall.
There's a one curved piece an inch down and
I'm sorry, you're correct. So this is to kind of smooth out. There's an existing set of stairs that come off, that go up. Right now to access the backyard, you really need to come out of the house, walk down to the main terrace and come up these steps. So this is just another way to create a intermediate space so that then they can come up into the yard. There'd probably be a couple boulder steps here just to change the grade from here to the upper lawn area.
Okay. All right. So there's no, you're just changing the curves, which are on that plan, it's all just the red curves, and your high point still 180 or 183 feet on the west, right? And your low point still like 160 on the east.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's a combination of the red and the blue just means that that's the 170 mark.
Yep.
So that's a major topo versus a minor topo.
Yep.
So
let's go around the horn again. George Riley, any questions for this applicant?
No, sir. Thank you.
Okay, Jennifer?
No questions.
Okay, Larry?
No, no, I'm just going to note that this is, I think, the second or third Maywood Road to come our way, and this road, the whole road is a huge hill, right? I happen to live around the corner from it, and I'm just wondering if there's anything kind of cumulative that we need to be thinking about if everybody on the road. I mean, we've approved a few already, so it wouldn't be fair to stop approving them, but is there anything that we should be thinking of? Sort of the whole road started to want to do this?
Yeah, the last one we just did was 17. I think that's a Dave Keating question. Or Susan Keating.
Yeah.
Thank you. This is Dave Keating. I think there could be some unforeseen impacts. And Mr. Lane's email to us, and I think all the commission members got that, raises a few concerns. And one of the concerns is a comment from the Public Works Department that the land slopes down from Maywood Road. Obviously, that's incorrect. It slopes up from Maywood Road. But Chris, maybe you can address Mr. Lane's concerns about potential impacts to him. And is there anything that you could do differently or additionally to make sure that there's no impact to the adjacent neighbors?
I'd be happy to go through that. I know from his comments, he had mentioned along the wall where my cursor is, there are some old pipes that kind of go up and down. I don't think they're working currently, given the condition they're in. We were not planning on utilizing those at all. We could even talk to the client about possibly removing those as part of this project, but I'd want to confirm with them. We're not increasing any water into this rock riprap, which is there now. That's, I think, a concern, as it tilts to the edge, this would go under the wall onto the property. So if we took out this section, just to make sure that anything that dissipates, has plenty of room to stay on our client's property, the McNamara's property, and come down this way. I think that would be all doable and resolve that question.
Sounds good. Jennifer, anything to add? No, bless you.
Bless you.
Gesundheit, Jennifer.
She blacked out.
I'm going to be watching the recording a few times.
Exactly.
Sorry about that. All good. Of course, that was the moment my camera was on and working. Perfect.
You all good? Jim Rain, any questions?
Just one. Net, the cut and the fill, in terms of what's coming in and what's going out. Can I assume that it's essentially zero?
Yes, it's essentially zero. We were maintaining all the cut material on there. There's, spaces, that can handle some minor regrading kind of on the side where, any excess material would go. So we're not planning to take anything away. We'd bring in some screen topsoil just as a top layer to make sure there's a proper seed bed. And so the access that we note on the northern section is mostly to get our machines in, do the work, and then to bring in the topsoil, not to be trucking back and forth with large quantities of material. And this is really the only easy way to access it because of the conditions on the other side of the property.
Thanks.
It says you're bringing in 160 cubic yards of topsoil. Is that right? About right?
That is, yes.
Okay.
So that is 8 trucks, but it wouldn't be all at once. It would be spread out, and we'd be bringing one in, spreading it with our machine, then bringing another one in. So we can consolidate that if needed.
No, that's fine. You can keep it spread out. Somebody brought in 3 truckloads of my house 2 weeks ago. Anything I'm missing, Fred or Dave, before we open up to the public?
I have nothing else on this one.
Okay. would anybody in the public domain like to speak to this application?
Yeah, hi, it's David Lane from 65 Maywood Road and 69 Maywood Road. And I think Chris, addressed the concerns that I'd raised. It's really with the existing conditions and the swale that does direct the water from the from southeast towards the northeast. My drive of 65 Maywood Road is, bordering that rock wall. So if he does remove some of that gravel that's there by that section of spruce trees, so that it's not directing towards the wall, I think that should address the concerns that I have, because we do have water flowing onto the driveway that does ice in the wintertime.
Okay. Is that on the plan today, Chris, or is it going to be like a later revision that can be submitted to staff?
I can submit that to staff this week, just to get that off of it. Yeah. So
that'd be great. I don't want to leave the hearing open for a revised plan. That's for sure.
No, exactly. I've spoke to the neighbors, and these are existing conditions that they inherited when they bought the property. But I think, given the work that's going on, perfect time to address it.
And also pulling out of those old, what I was called dead pipes.
yeah, I think that would be appropriate on the side, because no one's sure what goes into them, and I don't think they're performing much of a duty there at all, given their condition. So.
Thank you. Anything I'm missing before we close the hearing, Fred or Dave? Dave saying no. Fred
Nope,
saying
I have nothing.
I'd say a motion to close the hearing. Sounds like it's coming from George Riley. Yep. George Riley and Jim Rand seconded it. Yep, all in favor? Thank you, sir. You'll do some stuff with staff, and then we'll deliberate on this in a couple weeks, Fred. All right?
Yeah, if we have time later tonight, we can deliberate on it. Otherwise, we will push it off until the commission's next meeting, which is September 1st.
Okay. Next up, special permit application, number 313, Baywater 1025 BPR LLC, Plata Bowls, 1025 Boston Post Road, proposed to establish a new 1,630 square foot quick service restaurant in a portion of the first floor space formerly occupied by Kirby & Company. The subject property is located on the north/west side of Boston Post Road, approximately 30 feet northwest of its intersection with Brook Street, and shown on Assessor's Map number 73 as Lot 13 in the CBD zone. Let me get to that piece of paper. I lost it. I found it. This is the former Kirby & Company store that is next to Greeb's Pharmacy and next to not Uncle's Deli, Sugar Bowl. Sorry about that. Kirby & Company closed, I think, pre-COVID. It looks like the landlord is now proposed to have Plata. There's Plata Ball store in there, which my kids love, for the record, but I'm not recusing myself. And then maybe another tenant in there on the other space. Looks pretty straightforward to me. I think we have David Genovese, who's a principal at Baywater Properties. I think we have Kate Perez, who works at Baywater Properties. Fred and Dave, what am I missing?
I think you pretty much covered it, Steve. The use is classified as a quick service restaurant. And as you mentioned, the Playa Bowls is going into a portion of the space that was previously occupied by Kirby & Company. I will note that Kirby & Company did have a small food use in the back of their retail shop, serving coffee and some baked goods. And they also had approved, I think, 8 chairs and a number of tables in the back of the store. So the space was used to some extent for consumption of food goods and sort of a quick service restaurant, not restaurant, but quick service food use in back there. And then the prior use of the site prior to Kirby and Company coming in about 6 or 7 years ago was Swizzles, which was an ice cream or frozen yogurt establishment, and Crystal Nails. So those were higher intensity uses, let's say, than the most recent use of the site, Kirby and Company. So as you have mentioned, we have David Genovese here tonight and Kate Perez from Baywater Properties, and they'll go over the details of the application.
Kirby and Company did have good macarons, I was told. Kate Perez, take it away.
Fred, do you want to pull up the PowerPoint that we sent you, or do you want to give me the ability to share my screen?
I gave you the ability. You don't see it on your screen there?
It's saying open system preferences. I don't know why. Oh, here we go.
Hold on.
I got it. I think I got it.
Take it back.
I think it has to do with me.
I told you, Kate Perez, take over. I told you, David.
Maybe we should let Kate do it. Kate,
Yeah,
can
that's
you
what I
put
said.
up the PowerPoint?
Sure. Fred, can you share?
Yeah, let's see if I can give it to you, Kate.
I'll give you the background while we pull this up. And with us also is Steve Domofsky, one of the principals of Pliables. We met Steve about 8 months ago, a year ago. He and his partner Jared Jaquette run the Pliables in Fairfield, and we discovered that a lot of kids from Darien are having their parents drive them, including my kids, to Fairfield to get Pliables. It's a really popular. I wouldn't necessarily call it a restaurant per se. It's more like Swizzles or Gopher ice cream, in that they serve a series of these fresh fruit bowls. It's got a surfer vibe. It's a really cool and fun place. We had basically been talking about doing this as soon as we found out that Kirby was going to close, but then with COVID, everything slowed down a little bit. Kate has a PowerPoint that just shows kind of some images of what the building has looked like through our ownership period. That's the site plan. And then Kate, maybe you want to just walk them through. This is what we found when we bought the building.
Sure. And this is Kate Perez with Baywater. And Fred, I think you mentioned one of the previous uses, Crystal Nails, prior to Kirby's. So we just, pulled in a couple of historic images. And then an image of the building today, post Kirby moving out of the space. So, this is what the existing condition is, with a few temporary tables in front, as outdoor seating for the Sugar Bowl. And this image, which I believe everyone has in their printed packets as well, is the proposed elevation, which we presented at ARB as well, just walking through the signage and sort of the aesthetics and colors and choices on the exterior here, but you can see the proposed demising of the Kirby space into two separate retail spaces. One space being for Pliables, and the other a group called Warm, a clothing group that has a store in New York and a store, I believe, in Long Island. And we're discussing with them the space closer to Greaves. And the conversation with ARB was a positive one. Yesterday, we received a favorable recommendation in terms of the signage and sort of aesthetic of the facade and signage approach. And this is a more detailed drawing, just getting into the details of that storefront proposed for the Pliables store. And the intent is to have an operable glass panel noted on this drawing, which would open into the store and be supported in the store with a fastener that would keep those panels up and out of the way of people inside the space. But the goal here, and we have actually Steve Domovsky from Pliables as well. The goal here is to, have a very active front that, sort of has an indoor-outdoor feel. And this is something that's common through the Pliable stores. It's sort of a fun way to have people be able to interact from inside to outside. And we have a few sort of representative images of this concept.
And that's similar to what we did at Bodega.
I was going to say Bodega, same thing. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So this is a floor plan, a basic floor plan showing the demising plan with Pliables being on the left and Warm New York on the right side. And this floor plan, which I believe you also have, is a more detailed floor plan of the Pliable space, showing the proposed seating, kitchen area, counter, and sort of getting into the details of what that layout looks like. And we have 2 pages at the end here that actually are not physically printed in your packet. This was a clarification that came up today that we wanted to speak to, and related to those operable windows on the front of the Pliable store. We were asked to take a look at just the depth of the sidewalk, and there's a small counter at the bottom of that operable window that is intended to extend 12 inches from the storefront glass out towards the sidewalk. And this diagram is just intended to show what the existing condition is. So the sidewalk at this location is 10 foot 6 inches. And as you can see from this survey, the building face is set 2.2 feet back from the property line. So the intention is to have this 12-inch counter extension into that 2.2 foot, I guess what would be considered a front setback, so that this concept doesn't interfere with pedestrian traffic. So this floor plan shows that counter extension to scale, and shows how the counter and stools proposed on the sidewalk side fit into that area realistically.
Okay.
And the last image, this last page, we just wanted to sort of provide some precedent images for this concept and, locations in other cities, towns, including Bodega here, which has that sort of indoor-outdoor feel. And, we feel like this is a successful, sort of way to engage with the street and sort of speaks to, the fun and interactive type of brand that Pliables is. So we feel that architecture sort of reflects what they're trying to accomplish.
Cool. Thank you. You good?
This is Red Donite speaking, just two things very quickly. The first being the presentation of the warm use gives you a nice context of what the full use of the building is proposed to be. However, warm is a retail use and does not require commission approval. The quick service restaurant use is a special permit use and of course does require commission approval. So pliables, yes, on the commission approval. Warm doesn't need the commission approvals as of right in the central business district. Second, I would ask the applicant just to clarify the number of proposed seating included in the narrative of the application. It's noted that the proposed indoor seating is 16 seats and the proposed seasonal outdoor seating is 4 seats. However, the floor plan shows a difference in those numbers, as well as the front rendering of the building, I think shows 6 or 7 seats at the window at the front of the building. So if the applicant could clarify that, that would be helpful.
Steve, do you want to touch on that? I mean, I think we've got
I mean,
four.
Yeah, I'm looking at the construction plan, which is exhibit A2. That's got 16 inches outside.
Yeah, so this is Steve. The scene that we're showing on this plan is where we're looking to get accepted by the board. The exact count, I'm not even sure what it is, but the seating is shown graphically here. We do on the outside are looking for 4 on the bar on the outside and 4 on the inside. So the total is 8, 12, 20. It's about 24 seats total, counting the 4 on the sidewalk.
Now, Steve, the one thing too that I think is really important to address, and Fred and I spoke about this earlier today, is could you just characterize the typical customer of Pliables and how he or she, gets to you and kind of how it all tends to play out in Fairfield, and how much parking you have in Fairfield?
So right now, parking-wise, we're in a similar situation as we are here as we are in Fairfield. We don't have any on-site parking. And to be honest with you, not very many of the Pliables have on-site parking. The way it works is our target group is middle school and high school kids, 13 to 19, and it's kind of growing now into the college kids and even adults quickly. And so we usually have the younger girls that get dropped off. They either walk or they get dropped off, and they hang out there for about 2-3 hours, sometimes longer, and then they get picked up. And that's usually the flow of traffic for us. And the peak times, they vary, during the week, it's usually after school. In the summertime, it's mornings and later in the evenings when people get back from the beach. And we do usually have a lunch crowd, but it's nothing crazy that spikes too much of a group of people. But again, more often than not, it's after school at 2 or 3 o'clock to 5, 6 o'clock is our busy time. On weekends, it's pretty much busy all day, I'll be honest with you.
All right.
This is David Genovese speaking. When we found Steve and Jared and started to talk about this, giving it consideration, we considered this to be very similar, probably busier. It will be busier, but very similar to what was going on with Swizzles and Crystal Nails. And we gave you the presentation in some detail on warm, even though it's not necessary for approval. Just to give you a sense, it's a very high-end, beachy chic kind of clothing company based in Manhattan. They opened up a pop-up in Amagansett this summer, and one of the business partners actually is one of the coronavirus sort of exodus from Manhattan people. He and his family are spending the summer in Nantucket and then moving to Darien in August. And he wanted to open up a business here. his partner, Winnie Beatty, her husband's from Greenwich. And so they're all kind of moving out to the suburbs and making good things happen in our market. And so we think that this is a great opportunity too for a New York City-based fashion retailer to come carry on.
Thank you. I think I think you also read the papers. You built a new parking lot across the street too. You just got to get a sidewalk. I mean, it's a crosswalk.
Yeah. Well, that's part of the Corbin phased approach. So that's meant to be, for parking for, construction workers as we get going. We're hoping to begin construction of the culvert relocation in August and buildings in November. So, some of that will get taken up by construction workers. But the whole point of that effort was to, avoid what some people seem to be a little concerned about, which was, construction workers kind of flowing into the parking lot and causing problems elsewhere. So we wanted to be proactive and ahead of it, and that's why we took those buildings down and paved the parking lot, about 2 months ago.
Thank you. Jim Ray, your mic is open. Any questions on this application? Your
No,
grandkids?
I don't. No.
Larry, you good? Larry's good. George Riley, any questions?
Yeah, did I hear right that these customers who may be young people, high schoolers and whatnot, may be there for a couple of hours at a visit?
That's what I heard.
That's correct.
So that they're gonna, okay. So are you going to delineate the outdoor space like, Senna has a fencing around their tables and whatnot? Will there be any demarcation to kind of, may I say, corral the crowd or the customers so they aren't taking over the sidewalk?
I don't think that's the intent, Commissioner Riley. The barricades that you see at Senna are, I think, technically required if you're serving alcohol. I don't think those are required in this case. And given that they're setting this up as a slight overhang from the facade of the building, this will actually take up less space than the tables that are out there today and which were approved originally for Kirby and Company. Kate might have an image she could even show you. We could show you what's out there today. But this would have substantially less intrusion into the pedestrian right of way.
That would be if only 4 people are seated, but these customers may have friends who, they're going to kind of stand around outside there and whatnot and take up a little more space that way.
Yeah. Oh, that's fair enough. That's a fair point. I think our intent would not to start with any kind of barricade and see how it plays out. I think we also are a little sensitive to the whole approach to any of this in the era of coronavirus and social distancing. But as you can see from this image, it's going to take up a lot less space than that existing condition.
You'll make some provision for trash cleanup that in case things might get dropped on the sidewalk there.
Oh yes, definitely. Well, and our office is up the stairs from here too. So we own the building adjacent to Greaves Pharmacy building, and our own office is actually above Greaves right now.
We'll monitor that sidewalk. We do table wipes and trash runs every 15, 20 minutes. So there won't be anything on the sidewalk. I'll pick it up myself if I have to.
There you go.
If you're there, you've got a bunch of stores to look after though, right?
Yeah.
I caught Steve there pretty much every time I was in Fairfield.
Jennifer Leahy, any questions for you, miss?
I'm good.
All right. Would anybody in the public domain like to speak to this application? Hey, nobody in the chat, right, Fred?
I have nothing, Steve.
All right. Kate Perez, great job. Thank you for taking over the controls, David, as always. Appreciate your hard effort. Steve, nice to meet you.
Thank you.
I entertain a motion to close the hearing. From, I think, that's Larry saying yes, close. Jennifer?
I motion we close the hearing.
There you go. All those in favor? Thank you, sir.
Thank you all very much.
Great this tonight, and we'll get back to you as soon as we can.
Okay, terrific. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Okay, did we do this one or do this one? Okay, next, 53 Contentment Island Road. Right, I didn't miss anything, did I? Coastal Site Plan number 315C, flood damage prevention application number 361C, landfilling and regrading application number 394B as in boy, 53 Contentment Island LLC, 53 Contentment Island Road, and Deborah McLean, 45 Contentment Island Road, joint applicants, proposal to regrade and fill the northwest portion of 45 Contentment Island Road and a directly adjacent portion of 53 Contentment Island to the west, install drainage structures and eliminate ponding of stormwater on 45 Contentment Island Road. Proposed to shift existing driveway on 53 Contentment Island Road further west to accommodate the landscaping, screening, and shared property line, and to install a new gate entrance and its site development activities within regulated areas. The subject properties are located on the south side of Contentment Island Road, approximately 1,400 feet south of the intersection with Chenemere Road, shown on Assessor's Map number 68 as lots 17-21 and 53 Contentment Island Road as lot 15. 45 Contentment Island Road is in a R1 zone. Wow, I butchered that. Sorry, folks.
Fred, I can't get control yet.
That was hard. Fred, Dave, what do we got here?
Yeah, so Steve, you covered a good portion of the application here. This too is sort of a two-part application. It's a coastal site plan review, flood damage prevention, and landfilling regrading application. The first portion of the application is related to the southern portion of the site at the entrance driveway. It's a joint applicant, as you mentioned, 53 and 45 Contentment Island Road. The applicant proposes to fill and regrade a portion of 45 Contentment Island Road to address drainage issues. There's ponding of water in that area. The proposal is to slightly raise the driveway and create drainage structures underneath the driveway that would drain into tidal wetlands on the property. And that's, of course, intended to remedy those drainage issues that now exist. The second portion of the application, which the original application was supplemented with additional material, which was also included in your packets on Thursday or Friday of this past week. The applicant is also now proposing to construct a storage shed adjacent to the house in the flood zone. That storage shed would be used for the homeowners' kayaks and other recreational equipment. It's at elevation 10. The flood elevation or base flood elevation in that area is 15. So it is located in the AE flood zone. You'll notice as part of your package that Race Coastal Engineering did submit a letter on the application certifying flooding, that it wouldn't have any impacts on flooding. And again, we have Wilder Gleason and Doug DeVesta here to present the application.
Fred, I still can't get control of the screen.
Okay, let me take a look, Doug.
Okay.
Do you see it, Doug?
Yeah, that screen hasn't popped up yet. No, it didn't work.
Let's try
There we go.
again.
I got it now. Okay, got it.
Okay.
There you go.
Okay, Weiler.
Right. Wilder Gleason and Associates representing
There.
53 Contentment Island and Deborah McLean. We're in a joint application coastal site plan review, flood damage prevention. The first deals with the McLean property, which is filling, and then a driveway relocation for the Halverson driveway. It's not really a relocation. It's we've already got that approved by Jeremy Ginsburg. What it really is a lifting of the driveway 12 inches. Doug, could you go to the next slide? So there's two projects. There's McLean and 53 Contentment Island driveway. We're going to raise the driveway of 53 Contentment Island 12 inches. We're going to install 3 riprap channels under the driveway to nearby wetlands, which will eliminate some of the ponding or reduce it. The intent is to fill the puddle on the McLean property adjacent to the driveway. And we need CAM, flood, and landfilling permits. And we're requesting a waiver of section 880. There's no adverse impacts on neighbors, and there's just no need for a stormwater management study here. The second piece is the storage shed. It's near the beach, as Fred said, in an AE elevation 15 flood zone. The house, it'll house kayaks and other equipment, play stuff. It's 12 feet by 21 feet. It's designed to comply with FEMA. It'll be adequately anchored to resist flooding forces, and any utilities will be above the base flood elevation of 15. And it will have the same materials as the exterior of the house that's being constructed at 53 Contentment Island. We need CAM approval under section 810 and flood approval under section 820. So those are the two projects. We're starting with pictures. And let's go to the picture. Here's one picture. The area to the left of the right of the telephone pole includes a willow tree, and there's flooding in there. I thought we had a flooding picture, but I don't think that got into the presentation. There we go. That's flooding. It's fairly significant. And existing, next picture. Here's the willow tree now, and let's go back to that drainage structure, the one immediate. There. Here's the pipes that were replaced under the driveway. There were 3 pipes that were blocked. They've been replaced. They run water from one side, the McLean side. This is the Halverson driveway, and at the far side, they end before the tidal wetlands. Let's go to the next picture, please. So this is Doug's picture that shows the tidal wetlands outlined on the site. And Doug, do you want to explain what's going on here?
So again, for the record, Doug DeVesta, represent the applicant. This is the Halverson's driveway as it currently stands right now. And what we're looking to, and then this highlighted area is the tidal wetlands. There's the existing pipes that go across now. What we're proposing to do will be to, so again, the property to the west is the 53 Contentment, to the east is 45 Contentment Island Road. This area here is the existing driveway that leads out towards Contentment Island. This is their existing garage. This is all paved. This area here is flat. Minor grading going in there. A lot of ponding going on. Ponding occurs down in this area here where we saw a picture of the willow tree. This is the existing 3 6-inch pipes. Basically, the outfall of this pipe here are below grade. So they're really, when the water has to build up in this area here to get the water to flow out in towards the gravel wetlands. So what we're proposing to do is, again, one is to raise this portion of the driveway to match what was approved prior by the commission to this portion of the driveway, taking this portion of the driveway and shifting it west slightly. Because if you saw by the original picture, hang on, here we go. This picture here, you can see the existing driveway is right along and right on the property line. By shifting it to the west, gives us a little bit more space to put some screening, to put up a gate, things like that, without going on to 43 Contentment Island Road. So that's part of the application there. It's getting back to the drain.
Can I just interrupt a second?
Sure.
Jeremy Ginsburg already signed off on the installation of the gate, the entrance gate, and the relocation of the driveway. The lifting of the driveway 12 inches and the filling on the McLean property with the riprap channels underneath is new and subject to your approval tonight.
Okay. Okay, so getting back to the drainage, what we're proposing are 3 fingers riprap under the driveway, placed at existing grade, going into another riprap area under the underground, filling in that low spot by that willow tree that you saw standing water, and allow the water to, and then from that point beyond it, we will remove the topsoil, place sand, and then replace the topsoil back on top of the sand, allow the water to drain through the topsoil into the sand, into the riprap channel here, and then underneath the driveway and back out to the tidal wetlands. This will eliminate the ponding that's occurring there, which it becomes a mosquito trap, mosquito harvesting, and again with West Nile and stuff like that, it's important trying to get rid of that ponding that's occurring there. So that's the proposal. So if this water, so if the tidal wetlands do back up, it will back up through the channel, riprap channels, and into the storage, and it's being stored underground. And as the water in the tidal wetlands recedes, then it'll pull the water back out that is being trapped on the east side of 53 Contentment Island Road. So again, filling the area, regrading this slightly with a mild grade of 1%, and then allowing the water to drain through and underneath 53 Contentment Island. The next slide here sort of shows you the a cross section through the center, which is this line right through here. So this is what it's going to look like. So that's the cross section. This is done to scale. So you'll see this red line here is the existing grade. This is a match line that goes down to here and continues on through here. So you can see that we remove the topsoil, this hatch mark, put in sand there, replace the topsoil on top of the sand area, and then down through here, this is where riprap will start here and allow the water to channel through the void spaces in the riprap under the driveway and out towards the wetland, towards the tidal wetlands. And you can see that the riprap is at or close to existing grade right here. So we're not really, so the water does have a chance to flow through and underneath the driveway. Really, there's no, and the watershed for this area goes further towards the east, across the property of 43 Contentment and on up to a high point. I believe it's around 39 Contentment Island Road, with drains in that area. So again, we're trying to keep the flow path through and underneath 53 Contentment out towards the tidal wetlands and out towards the sound. If there's any questions, I'll be glad to answer them.
I have a quick question, Fred. I never heard of riprap that's covered. Is that what you explained on the sort of eastern piece?
Right. What we'll do is we'll put the riprap down, put filter fabric on top of it, and then put 6 to 8 inches of topsoil on top of that, and that will allow to grow grass, and that will allow the water, because again, riprap is fairly large. It's got a lot of void spaces in it, so that will allow the water to move freely under the ground and underneath the driveway, versus putting in pipes in there instead.
Right. I never heard of that. Okay. New one on me. That's all right. Commissioners, go ahead. Jim Rand, you're there. You good? George Riley, anything special?
No, sir. All good.
Larry? Good. Jennifer? Your mic is on. Ish. Good. Okay. It seems pretty straightforward. Looks like you're fixing a problem.
That's correct.
Before I open up to the general public, Fred and Dave, am I missing anything?
I have nothing more, Steve.
Yep, Dave Keating here. Doug, can you explain, would you be having a fabric filter between the layer of sand and the topsoil above that?
Yes, we will. If you see our detail, these are the details, general details of what it will look like. So you have your filtration bed here. You have your riprap, a layer of filter fabric, sand, and the filter fabric, and then topsoil. And the same thing with the sand bed. You'll have your sand, filter fabric, and then your topsoil. Again, what we're trying to do is trying to keep the migration of the sand, which is a coarse material, to drain down through this to the riprap. So again, the filter fabric will any migration, will eliminate any migration of the topsoil or the sand into the riprap.
Do you ever have to change the filter fabric?
Change it? No. No, once you put it in there, it stays there.
So it's going to last for 20 years or something?
Oh, we use that all the time for septic systems. So put that on top of the septic systems, and that's a much harsher environment than what we're talking about here. So and that lasts, let's say, indefinitely.
Okay, fantastic. You're okay, right, Dave? Yep. Anybody in the public domain, Fred, that you know? We'll open it up. Would anybody in the public domain like to speak to this application?
I see nothing, Steve.
Okay.
You got Bob Mazin watching it and Shane Murphy. Okay.
I just want to supplement, Doug, there's no adverse CAM impact, are there, on this?
No, there's not.
And is there any adverse impact on adjoining properties?
No, there's not.
Okay. So I will tell you that we did have some email exchanges with Tony Hamilton James, who lives on the other side of the property, and he is satisfied and has no objection to this or the shed that we're proposing. So any nearby neighbor has already either signed off as an applicant, the McLeans, or agrees with this, thinks it's a good idea. So let's go to the second part of it, which is the shed, Doug. So let's go back to this. The shed, this is a colored site plan. The wetlands are colored in blue. You have a copy of this, and the shed is highlighted in yellow. It's about 30 feet from the James property. It's not adjacent to the setback, which is 25 feet, and called out. So let's go to the next. Here's the architectural designs for it. It's 12 feet by 21 feet. You can see the kayaks, both in the section area where there's 3 kayaks on the walls, and they have fairly deep pilings on which this shed will be anchored. And the exterior materials are designed to match the house and look similar, and there are flood vents under the windows. You can see on 2 sides we have flood vents. Those are at least not more than 12 inches above the floor of the shed. Let's go to the next slide. This is a rendering showing a corner of the house and where the shed would be located. And then let's go to the next rendering. This is the shed, again, more close up. And Doug, let's go to the next one. So in summary, for the driveway and McLean filling, there's no adverse impact on neighbors or coastal resources. We have a race letter saying that it complies with FEMA regulations. And we need permits under CAM, flooding, and landfilling and regrading. For the storage shed, we're in a flood zone, so we're a storage structure. It's designed to comply with the flood regs per the race letter, which is part of your package. It complies with setbacks, and we need permits under CAM and flood. The race letter addresses the flood. And Doug, are there any CAM impacts by placing the shed where it's located?
No, there's not.
Okay. It is within the 100 feet of mean high water, so it's in the sensitive area where there's higher scrutiny by you guys. But the construction is outside of the tidal wetlands, and it can be done in a way that minimizes any impacts. And we're happy. That's it. Unless you guys have questions.
I'm good with that. When you put sheds in that area, you have to have the smart vents and the flood vents, which you already have. It's got to be anchored to the pilings and the piers, which that's a building department, engineering department issue. And I see and understand exactly what you're doing. Any does have any questions on this one? Chime in. Saying no, Larry's okay, Jim's okay, Jennifer's all right. You okay, Jen? Jen's good.
Okay.
Okay. Fred and Dave, before I open up to the public, any things I'm missing?
Dave Keating here. The use of the building as storage for the kayaks and the other water-related recreational equipment is really the only justification for it to be within the critical 100-foot CAM review area. If this was a general storage building, or if it was a garage for the parking of motor vehicles, it would not be appropriate to be in the CAM area within that critical area, but it is specifically for the storage of the boats and water-related items. And I think that's important to note that the commission can make a finding that this needs to be or should be within the critical 100-foot area.
So what you're saying is you can't put lawnmowers in there?
Correct. Dave Keating again. That's correct. This storage building is specifically, in a sense, like a boathouse. They have another storage building on another part of the property that would be appropriate for storing other items. But this is very close to a beach, which is a sensitive natural resource area. And the only justification that I can see for the structure in this location is the water-related use.
Okay, thank you. We'll make sure that makes it into the resolution. We're good. I want to open up to the general public on this item. Does anybody want to speak to this item? This portion of the application? I don't see anybody. You good, Fred? Fred's saying fine. Okay, Wilder, we're ready to close. Are you ready?
We're ready. Great. We'd love to get an approval as soon as possible.
Looking for a motion to close. It's got to be Jim Rand, right? He's my water guy.
I move that this subject be closed for further discussion.
There you go. George Riley, you seconding? Yep. All in favor? There we go. Thank you, folks.
Thank you. Have a good night, guys.
Thank you.
All right. The next item on our agenda is Christopher and Stephanie Mueller, 2 Eddie Lane, request to allow planning and landscaping maintenance work within a design conservation area. I'm told that's been withdrawn at this point or postponed. Is that right?
Yes, that's correct, Steve. Based on information provided by the applicant and staff review, we have moved that at the request of the applicant to September 1st. They're going to be doing some additional work to address our staff comments on that. Just to give the commission a very brief overview of what this is, they're looking to allow some planting of arborvitae and to allow landscape maintenance work and cutting of existing trees in poor condition within a designated conservation area and open space area that were both created as part of a subdivision in the 2006 or so time frame. So the applicant had presented us a conceptual drawing or plans with respect to planting of green arborvitae, large trees that would buffer the side and rear property line. Our concern was that the conservation area and open space area designated on that property was not cut back, we want to ensure that that area is maintained as natural area as it should be and as is required to be as part of the filed easement and the language around the conservation area. So the applicant is going to come back to us in September and provide more clear drawings which specifically delineate the conservation and open space areas and demonstrate to us that that will in fact be maintained as conservation area as opposed to lawn area, which a portion of those areas do appear to be maintained lawn area at this time. So we'll take another look at that in September. If any commission members have any comments on that now, we can certainly pass those comments along to the applicant, but otherwise we'll see that in September.
Hey, Dave, do you want to add anything now since you wrote a memo that you sent to us on that? Or is it self-explanatory?
Yeah, Dave Keating, if you have any input, if you have any suggestions, please give those to us now or email them to us so that we can pass those on to the applicant.
If it was a conservation easement, I thought you weren't allowed to touch it. You take out dead trees, but that's it. So, my only comment.
Yeah, so when the subdivision was created, it was these areas, the open space parcel and conservation easement, were under this jurisdiction of the Planning and Zoning Commission. And the language allows the property owner to maintain those areas in a natural condition. So landscaping and the planting of trees can occur within those areas. But again, it needs to be maintained as a natural area.
Or we can get deeper into it next time. If we get a pass on this one, we get a pass. Right?
Yep.
Okay, let's pass. It's now 10:24. We have three resolutions or four resolutions. I think 3 resolutions and a minutes to go through. Let's bang these things out and see what we can make with everything else. The first one is deliberation possible decision on the following: coastal site plan review number 157A, flood stem prevention application number 162A, land filling and regrading application number 481, Michael and Deborah Brennan, 22 Seagate Road. This is the house that's an existing house that's on Holly Pond. The guy is proposing to tear down the house, leave the pool, make the house basically go not lot line to lot line, but setback line to setback line. If you remember, the driveway was a little bit of an issue. It's hard to get into the driveway. He measured his own car. He says he can get it in there. Want to make sure that the driveway doesn't leak onto the adjoining property that's already in here. Because he's in the flood zone, he has to have an elevation certificate from a land surveyor, which is a new piece of the application. And this is the one where they're trying to get the flood plans redrawn. So he's outside of the flood zone, and that's the low more. At this point, he cannot have a basement. I think he can have a crawl space. If he gets it, the flood zone, the flood maps changed, he can create a basement, but we don't know that now, and we don't know when he's going to get back. I read through the draft resolution. I didn't really see anything, but I tried to double check. It's an R1 half zone, and it's 0.33 acres, which is only a third. Is that right?
Yes, that's correct, Steve.
Okay. Alrighty. That's the only question I had. Any other commissioner have any questions on this one? Questions, comments, scrivener's errors? Jennifer saying no, George saying no, Larry Warble saying no, Jim saying no. Okay. Motion to approve as submitted. That came from Jennifer, second by George Riley. All those in favor? Next, done. Okay. Next one, we have flood damage application number 228B, Charles L. Trubner Jr., 5 Tokenie Trail. This is the guy that's adding garage to his garage. He's adding a 2-car garage with a walkway. It's going to be attached to the house. Again, it's in a flood zone or near a flood zone. So he has to have the elevation certificate with the as-built survey. This was pretty straightforward. This guy's adding a garage to his house. I didn't find anything on here. It's a big lot. It's 2.24 acres in an R1 zone. Any comments, errors, questions from the commission? Jim saying no, George saying no, Larry saying no. Okay. Enter a motion to approve as submitted. I think that came from Larry. Yep. And Jennifer seconded. She's got a smile. All's in favor? Done. Okay. Next, we have a proposal to amend the dairying and zoning regulations, COZR number 3-2020. Business site plan number 225B as in boy, special permit application number 312, 1897 Boston Post Road LLC, 1897 Boston Post Road. This is the Darien International Tile Store that was at one point in its life a bank branch. They're going to keep the 4 walls of the building and 1.5 stories on top of that building to be basically a 2.5, 3-story building with 2 ground floor retail units and 5 apartments above. One of the apartments is going to be an affordable housing unit in town. So it makes it a 20% affordable housing development. We had some comments from the neighbors with regards to screening and heights of the building. I think we took care of all that stuff. There's also some changes we're doing to the NB zone by raising the square footage from minimum square footage or maximum square footage from 1,000 square feet to 1,200 square feet for an apartment. There was another minor thing that we're doing relative to the commission, which is it's number 5 in our resolution. Effects of zoning amendments. It had to get signed off by the city of Norwalk because one of our zoning district NB zone is on the Norwalk border, so they had to comment on it. They had no comments. That's pretty much it. We went through it. We had 2 meetings on it. I didn't find anything in here at all. They're supposed to have 25 parking spaces. They showed us and their experts said 24 will be fine. We agreed to that. That's pretty much it. Any questions, comments, errors, additions to this one? Jennifer saying no. Jim Rand sneezing, saying no. George Riley and Larry Warble all agreement. Okay. I would make a motion, entertain a motion to approve as submitted. That's from Larry Warble, seconded by Jennifer Leahy. All's in favor? Eyeball. Fantastic. Okay. Next, do we want to deliberate on the other applications, or we want to just approve the minutes? And it's now 10:30. I think we got a lot of work done.
Steve, this is Fred Donite speaking. I would just note that this is the commission's last meeting until September 1st, and going into September, we're going to have a very busy schedule with likely 3 nights of public hearings going into September. If the commission has it in you tonight, I would encourage you to deliberate on these applications so we can just get them out of the way at the beginning of September and just get on with business.
I don't disagree with it. I think the commission, we have 4 applications to talk about, which is the barbershop, the Maywood Avenue, Flat Black Lawn, Plata Bowls, and then Contentment Island. Is that okay if we go through these? Everyone's saying yes. Okay. We're gonna skip the first one because Pear Tree Point didn't close. The barber shop. I think it's fine. It's great business. Any question from anybody? Everyone's saying yes. So let's make a, ask staff to draft up a positive resolution. Right? Okay, everyone's agree with that? Yep.
From which I will abstain.
Yes, you're not in that one. Thank you. The next one is 55 Maywood Avenue. They're gonna flatten out their backyard so they can play soccer and lacrosse. They look at a good plan. They're gonna get back to staff with a couple changes to the site plan. One is for the pipes they're gonna take away, and something, and was another item they're gonna just delineate again. Any questions on that one? No? Okay, I would direct staff to draft up a positive resolution on that one. The next one, we have the Plata Bowls going into 1025 Boston Post Road. The only reason why we're seeing that is that it's because it's a quick service restaurant, and it gives us it's required a special permit. Everything else, it's fine. They got plenty of parking. They don't even have parking. So like a bunch of teenagers are gonna hang out there and for 3 hours and eat fruit bowls. I bet you
Well, there's the rub. There's the rub, and that's why I'm uneasy about this.
Right.
I'm gonna think long and hard on that one, because I can just see congregating in the middle of that sidewalk that I'm pretty sure we want to be very careful about congesting our sidewalks and whatnot. So I don't know. I know under the COVID regulations, we're allowing outdoor dining and that kind of thing. So if we could approve this like through September, and September maybe get extended, I'd be more comfortable with that. Anyway, let me just express my reservation at this point. We'll see what happens when we get the resolution.
That's right. You're more than welcome. We'll make sure we get that in there. I mean, I think this specific allegation does not have the benefit of like Gopher ice cream, where you can sit in that little pocket park next door for 2 hours.
Right.
I get it.
Problem.
I get it.
Yeah, I mean, my perspective with a teenager and a couple recent teenagers, a place that kids like to go downtown, that's fruit bowls. I like that. I think that's good.
I just can't see how you have a business model with 16 seats and somebody hangs out there for 3 hours and pays $10 for a food bowl. I think you got to turn tables, but who knows? So it seems like we have four out of 5 saying yes, draft a positive resolution. Is that agreed? Yep. Okay. So staff, if you can make sure you draft a positive resolution, that'd be great. And we'll make sure we get all of George Riley's concerns into a resolution, and see if we can make sure we get everyone to be in agreement.
Yep, absolutely.
Thank you. Last one is coastal site plan review for the land filling and regrading application on Contentment Island. Looks like they're moving a driveway, they're putting in a shed, they're getting rid of ponding. Doug divested, he knows his business, so he's designed something good. I can't see anything that would stop us from improving that one. Everyone saying agree, yes? Okay. So
Yep.
staff draft up a positive resolution on that one too. All right.
So we will go ahead and draft resolutions for each of these 4 applications and have these ready for your review at your September 1st meeting.
That'd be great. Okay, on to the minutes. The minutes is a bunch of, just from July 7th, it's a bunch of resolutions where we're not allowed to change anything anyway. There's a resolution for Pasture Lane. There's a resolution for, what the heck was that one? Point of Woods. Where is it? That is May 7th Maywood. We have another one, which is 11 Tokenique Trail. That was fine. Then you go into the deliberation on 34 Old Kings Highway, which we passed. What else? Then we talked about Raymond Street. That one we passed. we gave that one a positive. We talked about Glen Liquors. The only thing that's weird, and it's actually true, is Jeremy announced twice that we were not doing 49 Sedgwick Road. He did it once, and then he did it again. I think I did it a third time, so that's why it's in there multiple times. But I remember him doing that. And then we talked about, we did the public hearing for 1897 Boston Post Road. And I think that's it. Token Trail, we just talked about that. I would entertain anybody have any questions, comments, errors, typos? Jennifer saying no. Jim Rand's good. George Riley's a lawyer with a good eye. Larry Warble, your mic is on. Anything special? You good? Entertain a motion to approve the minutes as submitted. Jennifer, you got a second from Larry? All those in favor? Bingo, done. That's done. Other business requires 2/3 majority. I don't think we're taking that vote because it's 10:37. So if nobody votes, you can't do it. Our next meeting is September 1st, and then we have September 8th. Just to note in your own minds, our passing of all the COVID stuff expires on Tuesday, September 8th, which is Labor Day Tuesday. So I don't know if we're going to talk about it on September 1st or not, but
yes, we are, Steve.
We are going to talk about that.
Yep. We've included that on the September 1st agenda for the commission to make a decision as to what direction you'd like to go on either extending that further down the road or making a decision how you want to handle that.
The people that are covered by it will sort of deserve to know in advance so they can plan if this thing is we're going to continue or not.
My two thoughts on it. I never thought we'd be at this spot. I would have thought this thing would have been done by 4th of July and we would be back to normal. I was very surprised that we as a commission did it to Labor Day because I didn't think we needed to. The date in my head now is Columbus Day weekend. If we're going to keep calling it Columbus Day weekend, I don't know if you want to go to Halloween, but that's the working dates that I was talking about with Jeremy, which is Columbus Day is somewhere in October, if they still call it about that. But something to think about. Come back September 1st. I don't think we're going to Halloween. I sure hope we're not going to Thanksgiving, but I don't know if you have outdoor dining after Halloween anyway. So,
well, I think we have to figure something out though.
Yeah, maybe something for these guys. So maybe they'll put up those fire things or whatever the heck they are.
Are we able to do that? I mean, sorry, just as a tangent for us to research that, like fire, what are those called? Heat lamps?
Yeah, a lot of the Black Goose has got them. The Black Goose got them. What's the other one? Used to be called Darien Social, now it's Louis. They have them in the back.
Okay.
We just got to help out wherever we can. That's all I can say. I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Got done by 11. Thank you, Susan Keating. Everybody.
Who do we have on that? We have Jim Brand and George Riley.
George, poor George got
snuck in there. Huh? Okay.
George's on everything today. The only one that's Riley. All right.
Thanks everyone. Have a good rest of the summer.